it's really hard to follow. Hi, I'm Karen. First of all, thank you, Ariana, and thank you, Heidi, for asking me to be here tonight. I'm going to read because I'm a little nervous. Since moving back from Israel 2 years ago, I try and get involved with as many Israel-related events as I can. So it's the next best thing I can do for Israel after serving in the IDF. Raised by 2 Israeli parents in New York, our family vacations were in Israel 99% of the time. Where the sun always shines and the winter doesn't exist, it's the perfect vacation any time of the year. Soon enough, we made an aliyah. I've lived here, I've lived there, back and forth, over and over again. If I get into the details, we'll be here all night. So I'll skip to age 18. This is the age when most Israelis join the IDF. I say most because although it's mandatory for Israeli citizens, I know there are ways to get out of it. Mine was pretty easy. Living in the US at the time, I had to make a decision. Some people thought I was crazy not to use my get out of the army free card, but I knew in my heart the right thing to do. So going back to Israel to serve my country, my home, was the hardest and the best decision I've ever made. It wasn't an easy one to make. I've heard all the horror stories, the sleepless nights, getting yelled at, and the terrible food. And yet, here I was on the plane back to Israel, 18 years old, leaving my parents behind to serve in the IDF. Some of those horror stories became my reality. The sleepless nights, the terrible food, and me, usually a good girl that never got punished growing up. Here I was on my way to monthly guard duty, carrying an M16 that's heavier than I am, and that would occasionally drag on the floor if I didn't hold it up, getting yelled at for being 30 seconds late. But I never lost track of the big picture. Why was I there? I was there to serve Israel. I always felt that it was my responsibility. This was my personal obligation to Israel, our home. My part wasn't combat. The army knew better than to assign me, a 5'2" girl that cries from broken nail, to a combat unit. Not a good idea. So instead, they taught me all I need to know about computers and turned me into an IT geek, so I can serve my country the best way I'm capable of. I can't get into the details of my part exactly for security reasons, but let me tell you, there are positions in the IDF that are as important as combat. Thankfully, there are people like Adam and Jonathan and everyone else here at the table that are capable and willing to serve in combat units. Being a lone soldier has its own difficulties. And although I myself had friends in Israel and had an amazing sister to send me food packages, coming back to an empty home after a 12-hour nightly shift, 3 days at the base, whatever it may be, all I wanted was my mom's cooking and for my laundry to be done. Instead, I got a working permit. So, of course there were highs, there were lows, but the outcome was no doubt amazing. I spent 2 years of my life dedicated to Israel and have no regrets. My dad served and fought in the 6-Day War and in Yom Kippur War, so growing up I was always very proud of my dad. And here I stand today, proud and honored to say I was an IDF soldier too. So I pray for the safety of our soldiers serving today and keep the fallen soldiers in my heart every day. May they rest in peace and never forgotten. Have a great evening, everyone, and next week Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah.